I've got myself a Ping G430 Max 10K, and I'm comparing it to the Callaway AI Smoke Max. Now this video is very different to other videos because I've built both clubs in exactly the same way. Both drivers have the same shaft. We've got the Aldila NV Green in a 65 stiff. Both shafts have been spine aligned, so the spine is in exactly the same place. So we've got the graphics in a different area, but they're going to behave in a very uniform manner compared to each other. I've got exactly the same length, I've got exactly the same grip, and I've got exactly the same swing weight. Now I had to do a couple of different things with these builds to get them into the same parameters. Now with the Ping, I had to put an extra weight in the end of the golf club like this, because there's more mass in the head of the golf club, so it's got a bit more weight this end, so I had to balance it out with the grip. With the Callaway, we don't have as much mass in the head, so I had to take out the standard 2 gram weight from the head and put in a 7 gram weight in the head, and then I got both clubs in exactly the same balance. Both clubs have a lambkin black, mid-size grip. Now the reason I've done this to get both clubs built in exactly the same way, the shaft isn't ideal for me, I'm not going to get perfect flights, but I'm going to see the difference that each head produces. With the Callaway, we've got a super amount of forgiveness in the head because the club face has more areas on it that allow the ball to create more ball speeds. We've got a very hot face on the heel toe. Each face is individually designed with the triple diamonds, the Max and the Max Draw. They have a different club face technology on each model. And this does feel quite solid, flies nicely off the face. But sometimes just turns over a little bit too much for me because I'm not used to this head. The shaft's a bit softer than normal. But if I'm going to hit a draw, I'm going to see which head produces more draw or something like that. So say I'm hitting too much draw on this Callaway driver, I can move this weight into the toe, which will give it more fade bias. I can't do that much with the settings on here because we can only really go neutral. -1 is going to be the most open face because -1 just sits the face that little bit more open. Everything else is geared up to get it to go left. So I'm keeping it on neutral settings. The ball is flying very high, landing in the fairway quite nicely, quite a way up there, so I'm quite happy with how that is going. And then we go into the Ping 10K. Now the 10K is relative to the moment of inertia in the golf club and the forgiveness that's built into it. As it happens, the Callaway is actually 9,600 in moment of inertia, so it's not unforgiving at all. They're just shouting more about the club face than they are the balance and MOI of the head. Ping are going all out on that 10K element, so there's in theory not as much club face technology. It's more to do with the distribution of weight to stop it from deflecting when you hit it off center. Callaway is a bit more from the club face technology itself. The Ping is definitely easier to draw. I think because there's more mass in the head, we get a bit more of a solid strike. The weight being positioned up this end of the head is counterbalancing, and counterbalancing basically encourages the release of the club head because there's more weight here to let that overtake, which produces more draw. And a nice high draw going somewhere near the fairway, maybe in the left rough. With the Ping, if we're getting too much draw, we can go into flatter settings. So the flatter settings are when you take this out, you look on the other side, it says flat on the adapter. So on the standard settings here on the Ping driver, we go the other side, we get flat settings. So we've got flat written here. In terms of that flat setting, if we get your normal ball flight there going off to the left, we go flatter and it moves out to the right hand side a little bit more. I've just got it on standard settings at the minute, so I'm just going to let it draw just to see how it compares to the Callaway. I have to say both heads feel fantastic on a good strike, and they also feel really good on a bad strike. Although that one was a bit toey. Ooh, that is moving left. Not necessarily the club's fault, but it's encouraging it. So I've got a couple of shots there with the Ping that I'm going to ignore because they did overturn a little bit too much. It's not fair to keep that data in here. The balance of the club is encouraging that leftness with that extra weight in the grip, allowing the head to turn over more, going over there a little bit easier. First thing I want to look at, the draw spin that I got on the Callaway averaged out at 645. The draw spin I got on the Ping was 924, so I'm definitely getting more curvature to that left-hand side. If you leave the ball out to the right-hand side, the Ping between these two models is better. Of course, in the Callaway, we do have the Max D, which is more encouraging to the left. To stop the odd slices. So my club head speed between the two was slightly faster with the Callaway, Smash factor, pretty similar, slightly higher on the Ping, which is cool. My delivery, my path was the same both times. My angle of attack was slightly more up on the Ping, and that could be coming from that counterbalance element where that head overtaking helps me get up on the ball just that little bit more, which should in theory reduce the spin, but I've got quite similar ball speeds, slightly more ball speed because I just had a little bit more speed on my swing itself, so that's transferred into the golf ball. Launch angle quite similar, spin rate quite similar, carry quite similar, and overall distance just a little bit shorter on the Ping, but I think because I was landing in the rough, it was just stopping that a little bit quicker. So I'd kind of look here for a bit more. Dispersion rings, I've got a bit more spread on the Callaway while it's in its neutral setting. Like it's got a little bit left, a little bit of right. I'm kind of like fighting it a little bit. With the Ping, it's always turning left for me. I find that quite consistent. I just need to use a flatter setting to get it to move over here. But both drivers quite similar in their own dynamic forms. With their stock shafts, they're going to play differently. Try both out because the heads are producing very similar launch characteristics. Get a fitting and see what shaft suits you better. And I'll see you on the next video.